is Star Wars Connection, and today we're going to talk about the trailer. My name is Denise, and I'm here with Lee.
Hi! So a quick breakdown of the order of things today. We're going to first start off with our general impressions on the trailer, and then we're going to move on to a breakdown of the key scenes and what we think they mean, things that we noticed, and the reception to the trailer, some of the reactions that we've seen both in the media and in the fandom. Towards the end, we're going to talk a little bit about what this trailer means for the connection between Rey and Kylo Ren and how it's going to be portrayed. All of this discussion is going to be interspaced with tons of gushing and celebration because this trailer... Okay, we'll get to that. Hold on. Let's start with talking about how much we love the trailer. Denise, what were your first impressions?
I thought it was amazing. And then at the end, like everybody, woohoo! But just quick thing, I was surprised. I was really surprised at how much it focused on Rey and Kylo, but I think it's mainly about the Force plot. I was also surprised at how sci-fi it looks. Weird to explain it. It looks so sci-fi, it looks so fantasy, and it looks Star Wars. It looks like the prequels, it looks like the old trilogy, and it's visually unique. So those were my strongest impressions. What were yours?
Well, first of all, I was freaking out leading up to when it was coming up. Like, I never watched football. I can count in my hand how many football games I've ever sat through. But I watched that freaking game, and I was just like, as the clock was ticking, my heart was in my throat. I was freaking out. And then suddenly it was there, and I couldn't believe it. Like, my mind was just blown away. And then that final shot when he reaches his hand out to her, I lost it. I just started dancing and screaming around in my house, and everybody was looking at me like, what is wrong with you? It was amazing. I've watched it 20 times and I'm still blown away each time. I loved it. There are things that I loved about it specifically that surprised me a great deal. I call this the Kylo trailer. So I've been bitching for months about they're holding Kylo Ren hostage. They're keeping him from us. They don't show him to me. I want to see him. The trailer was all Kylo from the start to the end. So I love that about it. And they showed a fierce Kylo, a vulnerable Kylo, not just like one who's looking depressed. Like, he looked badass. He even has his goth little band-aid. He just looks amazing. And I just am so blown away by Adam Driver's acting, the way that he can convey all this emotion, his eyes and his facial expression. I'm so looking forward to this movie. And I really think the trailer hit all the keynotes that we've been anticipating. So
Yes.
It's like, I just loved it. I can't express how much I loved it. I found it really interesting that you mentioned that you thought it was very sci-fi, because for me it was very fantasy. There were things about the trailer that seemed very familiar in the Star Wars universe, because you see shots that are kind of reminiscent of Anakin piloting,
Yes.
and you see shots that are like reminiscent of Hoth. But then there were elements there that are, for me, reminded me of other movies that I love. I don't know, that shot of Rey walking up in her cloak, it reminded me of Frodo in The Lord of the Rings. It's like, I expect her to have lemba bread on her or something. And then one other thing that I really liked is that there's a very Lord of the Rings fantasy feel to it because of the music. There's the shot of her getting tortured by Snoke. It reminded me of Harry Potter, of when, you know, that cursed necklace that Katie Bell takes, and like she gets thrown up in the air and she's screaming. And then that amazing moment when Rey ignites her lightsaber and there's this haunting scream that just goes up and up and up. It reminded me like even of The Mummy. You know, it's like, I don't know, it just visually it seemed brand new for a Star Wars movie, because it's such an interesting experimental style, but at the same time it's everything that we know and love. So I just can't praise it enough. I just loved it.
I'm gonna say, if I saw a trailer like that looked like that, and if it wasn't Star Wars, and if I didn't know the characters, I would go see it. I was like, I'm going to see it, take my money, because it just looks so amazing. And when I say sci-fi, what I say is, you know, Kylo's space stitches or something, you know, you see that person with that silver thing, and that, you know, that evokes sci-fi. The ships in that crystal thing, I know crystal is sort of magic, but the way it is, you know, it's like this sci-fi landscape. The hand coming out, there's something of Terminator, there's something, it's a staple of horror movies, right? That hand coming out from the debris or from the ground. So there's that, but I also thought it was fantasy. I agree with you with the Lord of the Rings reference. I don't know Harry Potter. I haven't watched the movies. I've only read it, and thankfully. And I think it was, but like I said, it was very unique and it was very story based. That was something that I loved. It was about the story of these two people trying to find themselves and coming together to find themselves, which is great. And in comparison with The Force Awakens, it wasn't much about a story, but maybe, you know, it was the beginning. They just wanted to, it was more like nostalgia questions, you know, and now we have a story. And, you know, I think the mood and the style of the movie is there. Of course, some of the resistance plot is not there. Something else. This movie is gonna have an awesome space battle and things happening in space, you know, not in a which is a little new for the Star Wars movies. I mean, even Revenge of the Sith had a very good beginning, but you know, the most important stuff was inside, and it's gonna have a ground battle. The Battle of Hoth is my favorite in Star Wars, and it's gonna have one that looks like that. So it's gonna have two awesome battles, and that's just amazing.
One thing that I really loved, and I think you made that point very well, is that yes, it's spaceships and space battles, but it's so character driven at the same time, and they conveyed that in the trailer, which is like, wow, whoever put that together did a great job, because the trailer is so much about the focus on where each character is, what they're struggling with in the moment. There's hints about the dynamics between them evolving from where they were in The Force Awakens. It's just leaps and bounds ahead for me already to The Force Awakens, and I'm just, oh my god, I'm just so blown away by it. Another thing I wanted to talk about is just how much I love Rian Johnson now. I liked him to begin with, but every time he opens his mouth, he says something awesome. And the care and the thought that he's put in, this is a guy who's just obviously brilliant, and I just love how interesting it is, the way that he places the camera and the way that he frames a shot. It's so different from what you know in Star Wars if you compare it to the original trilogy where everything was static. It seemed, I love the original trilogy obviously, but there's something about this that's so refreshing and different. There's unexpected things that are occurring visually that are just stunning. Even little details like the mechanical whir, the groan of the walkers as they take these heavy steps, and how the dust kind of comes up. It's so immersive.
Yes. Everything is symbolic as well with the red. There's that scene there's that callback to Revenge of the Sith with, I think, Kylo the Trooper. Like, yes, I think he gets what Star Wars is. And also, I think, you know, the space stitches with Kylo in the beginning as a symbol of him healing. I find that everything seems to have a purpose and a meaning, which is amazing.
I don't want to offend anybody who adores JJ. We keep getting all these comments from people saying, well, how dare you talk badly about our JJ? Look, I love JJ. He created Reylo. You gotta love him for that alone. But think about the level that they're operating at. With JJ, for him to connect this new trilogy to the original trilogy, it had to be like a very literal translation into the same shots, the same dialogue, the same dynamic, and it's a very clear thing. With Rian Johnson, there's a sophistication so that you can see that there is a connection to what was there before, but it's not a literal copy. It's a reinterpretation of it in a way that you immediately recognize it, but it's still new at the same time. I just love that. I just love him.
It's almost like the walkers, you know? It's the same type of walker, but they learned and they evolved. No?
Exactly. And you know, somebody was mentioning this to me at work today. Even the thing about Luke talking about how he's scared. You remember how Yoda told him, you will be.
Yes,
I always thought it was super creepy. Like, Yoda creeped me out in that moment. He didn't understand fear, and he actually gets to that point in Ryan's movie where he knows what it's like to be afraid, and he looks freaking terrified. I just love how it all comes full circle in a way. And I love Ryan for saying that it's going to be its own thing. Obviously, it has to leave you hanging in some aspects so that it can continue in the last movie. But I feel like we're going to leave there with a satisfaction that we saw an arc come full circle in a way and then evolve into something else to continue. I love it. I think it was a great choice. We haven't seen the movie yet, but so far, everything looks so fantastic.
So far it does.
One thing that we wanted to do was kind of break down the scenes a little bit and not go necessarily shot by shot, but certainly talk about the key ones.
Yes.
The trailer opens with Kylo Ren in a hangar, and he's looking down. And one thing that struck me about it right away is that the way that he's dressed, he's got his external armor off, and he's just got like these leggings and this tunic, and it's very courtly. And his stance, there's this vibe about him, like he's just pensive. And
I thought it reminded me of Anakin. He has a shot like that in that horrible movie. Anyways, and it reminded me of the prequels, because it's in the prequels that you see, you know, this war machine inside. ship, like you see it in the Phantom Menace, for instance. So I thought visually, for me, it was a callback to the prequels in the good sense, because it's actually really cool to see that.
Yeah, there's a lot of really cool callbacks here. Next, we have the line of walkers, the guerrilla walkers, as they're called. They're advancing on Crate. And nerdier nerds than us notice that the walkers have armor on their legs that are going to prevent them from getting knocked down the way Luke did.
Yeah, they learned.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't learn to stop building Death Stars, but at least they learned that.
In that shot, I just wanted to say that it shows Kylo's space shuttle, but I don't know if he's gonna be there, because I think this shot is at the end. I'm a little confused to that, and maybe Hux is there, or maybe Snoke is there. I don't know. It confuses me.
One thing I heard was that this scene seems like they're advancing on where Leia is. Like, it sounds like Crate is a stronghold of the Resistance, and so these walkers are advancing onto where the Resistance has gone to hide. So there's a shot later of Leia that appears to be, she's waiting for them to come.
In theory, it should be at the end, but even if it's at the beginning, it doesn't really match, because we have the other shot of Kylo, with his stitches, kind of attacking Leia in space. You can't have both of them in the beginning.
The stitches are at the beginning. Why would he wear the stitches after it's healed?
Because it looks cool. Come on.
Also, the smashing of the mask. If we see him masked, it's going to be at the beginning for me. And I think he's coming to get his performance review from Snoke or whatever. And then he smashes the mask, which to me, wow, what a moment to see him just smashing it. Very symbolic, as we've been talking about. And I've seen people kind of read this both ways. Some people say it means that he's more vulnerable to the light now. Yes, I think so. But I also think that it means that externally he's trying to be more defiant and kind of own his Kylo Ren identity and say, I don't need this mask to be who I'm going to be. Because it was said that the reason for Kylo Ren wearing the mask in the first place was to conceal his identity as a Solo. So now if he's like, well, fuck it, I don't care who knows, I'm going to be me. That means that he's trying to hang on to the darkness and wear it like as a point of pride, like a badge of honor. But it also makes him more human to the audience, and it makes him more vulnerable to be exposed that way. So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, my understanding was that he was actually turning away from the dark side. Maybe he does it to be completely dark and he doesn't need that anymore. But in a way, it kind of backfires. But because symbolically it means so much that it's his first stepping away from his Kylo Ren persona.
And to me, that just reminds me of Luke saying, it's not going to go the way you think. By the way, I have a feeling that he's saying that to Kylo Ren. But what I'm wondering is, was it in the past when Kylo first turned against him, or is it something that we're going to see in present time? But I think that he's saying it to Kylo. But anyway, I think Kylo may have broken that mask thinking that, well, I don't need it anymore. But really, it is bringing him closer to the light, even if he doesn't realize it at the moment. So it's just a cool shot. And I really love that Kylo in his dark outfit, and then the contrast of the red in the backdrop in the room. It's just visually just gorgeous.
Yeah, but I'm just saying the scene in Crate, that's why I'm confused, because Crate has to be at the middle or at the end. Kylo has, his silencer, and now we see his shadow in Crate. So I don't know what's going on there. I'm confused. Very confused.
Maybe it's just misdirection. Maybe they did it on purpose so that we were confused. Okay, so let's move on. Next, some Force plot stuff with Rey and Luke. I love this because anybody who's still clinging to the idea that this is a reunion between father and daughter, please take a look at Luke's face.
But come on, they're bonding. Don't you see the beautiful father and daughter bonding? Come on, lots of people saw it. So it's definitely there.
Yeah, well, Rey Skywalker comes to see her dad, and he looks just so thrilled to see her. He looks just so happy.
Yeah. I loved how vulnerable and scared he was. His fear kind of, I loved those scenes.
I didn't like that, weird. Actually. It's funny.
Like it.
I didn't like to see Luke so rattled. It's so weird. It's almost like, it's like seeing your dad scared. Like, what? You're not supposed to be scared. You're supposed to be wise and powerful. Why are you so freaked out? His face when Rey split the ground, he was like, nope. I'm getting the hell out of here. Luke, what's going on? Yeah, I don't know. He looks so like shaken, you know what I mean?
We don't know what we're going to find out. Maybe there's a good reason for his fear. That's what I thought.
What do you think about the dialogue when he tells Rey, I've seen this raw strength once before. It didn't scare me enough then. It does now.
I think he's comparing her to Kylo. Even if he's not, let's say he's not. I think that's what the trailer wants us to believe, because he had just shown Kylo and it's showing her like that she has the same potential for darkness or extreme, insane potential that's dangerous, just like Kylo. What do you think?
I agree with you. I think that's a really good point that you made. We're all assuming that he's talking about Kylo Ren, but the point is that the trailer wants us to assume that. So the trailer wants us to make that connection, between Rey and Kylo. The same way that when Snoke is talking, a lot of people assume that he's talking to Kylo Ren when he says, the first time I saw you, yes, I saw raw power and something truly special. But is it really Kylo Ren that he's talking to? Maybe he's talking to Rey. We don't know. But the idea that it could be either of them, that's awesome. The trailer is basically connecting. It's like a red string of fate between Kylo Ren and Rey. You have them on two extremes, and this trailer is just bringing them together for the audience to see. People who hadn't figured it out yet. They're two sides of the same coin, my friends.
Yeah, I thought that's what I thought. It doesn't really matter who he's talking about. You have kind of like a similar theme going through that is about both Kylo and Rey. So, it's really interesting.
Yes. Next, there's a scene of Rey looking just dismayed. A lot of people have speculated that, in a way, Luke refuses to train her. I don't think he's going to refuse, but I think that it's not going to go well. I think that's pretty clear, that he is scared, he's rattled, he's not helping her very much, and I think that's just going to lead her to become more and more frustrated, and I think we can see signs of that in the trailer.
I think it's really interesting because she has this, abandonment, whatever complex, and, how that's going to affect her emotionally, and that's interesting, and that's how she might feel, disappointed and hurt, which is good for drama.
She actually says that she's always known that there's something inside of her and that now it's awake, she needs help. That's pretty clear. I mean, she's floundering and she needs guidance. She needs a teacher. But it doesn't sound like Luke is stepping up to the plate.
But it seems that she's scared as well, right? Because she has something and she needs help. So there is something scary and dangerous, which is very, very interesting.
Yes. Next, we have a shot of Kylo Ren. He says something very interesting. Let the past die, even if you have to kill it. And people are saying, well, who's he talking to? It sounds like maybe it could be Rey, but maybe it could be talking to himself. I don't know.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
It could be to Rey as well. But I thought he was talking to himself. It was about his change, he's redefining himself. But even if he's talking to her, it kind of like he's talking about himself as well in a way. So, again, it doesn't really matter, to say, oh, this is it, this is that. Because, in terms of theme, it's the same.
Again, highlights the idea that they're the same, even if they seem different. But the tone that he uses is so almost gentle and tender, He's like, I don't know. Oh, I loved it.
Yeah. And then because of the trailer, people think, oh yeah, he made his mind and he's gonna kill his mom.
Please. He looks so conflicted. He looks just so vulnerable, and the quivering of his chin,
It's amazing.
Like, and the thumb kind of hovering over the button. What a tense moment. And Leia, I love how they cut between him and Leia. Again, maybe this is misdirection. Maybe it's not that they're really communicating in that moment, shot to shot, but the idea that they're trying to let us know is that they are connected and Kylo is really hesitating.
It reminds me of Luke and Vader in Return of the Jedi, in different ships and kind of feeling each other. Again, maybe it's not in the movie exactly like that, but even if it's not exactly like that, I think it is going to play a part and she's going to feel it, I love the acting. She looks amazing.
Both of them look, oh my goodness. Because Leia, the way that they put the shots, it looks like she understands what he's thinking. She knows, and she doesn't look frightened. She looks almost like she's feeling for him, There's something very, it's heartbreaking. That was the moment that made me get teary-eyed, actually, when I saw the trailer. And I don't know how I'm going to handle that at the movie theater if it plays out like that. But anyway, a lot of people are coming out of watching that thinking, as you say, like, oh, he's going to kill his mom. He's done for. No. To me, this scene is conveying just the opposite. And I think that it's moments like this that they hired Adam Driver for specifically, because he's so good at that nonverbal communication. He conveys with his body language and his eyes, his facial expression, everything that you need to know, that internally this is a person who's still in conflict, who's still very much torn apart, more so now than before, and that he's suffering more so now than before. He still loves his mom and he will never be able to bring himself to hurt her. He can't do it. So, yeah.
I thought it was a very amazing mother and son scene, full of conflict. And no, he's not gonna, if he pulls his trigger, he's gonna pull somewhere else, or something else is gonna happen. He's not trying to kill his mom. Come on.
Exactly. And can we just take a moment to say how amazing it is to see Kylo Ren piloting, and he is so good at it. He's like spinning in and out. It's like effortless. The spins are insane. He's totally his grandfather's grandson. He's channeling his inner Anakin. I love it. I love that we get to see it. Next we have, okay, I have to make a confession, Denise. I've had a change of heart, and I love the porgs now.
I love it too. I love it. You know why? Because we're so sad because of Chewbacca, and that shot is the one, ray of light, and that's like so woohoo. I thought it was beautiful.
It was adorable. Like the porg, he's trying to imitate Chewie's roar, It was so cute. Oh my God, now I get it. I think the problem was that I hate birds, and they were trying to make it like a bird thing, and now it reminds me more of a dog, and dogs are like the key to my heart. So I'm excited about the porgs now. I don't think Chewie's gonna eat that porg,
I love birds, roasted chicken pie.
I'm gonna stop making jokes about lightly breaded and fried porg on Tumblr because I just love them now.
No, it's cute, and the scene is adorable, and it's so cheerful. I was watching some reactions, and I saw some with kids, and it was the one the kids most liked it. Of
course, yeah.
But I saw with my son, he's not so much into cute stuff.
You actually said it, Denise, when we first started hearing about the porgs and the creatures, that it's so important to have something like this in a movie that's so heavy, so dark, with all these themes about identity and angst and, discovery. Very intellectually stimulating and spiritual stuff, but then you need something lighthearted like this.
I think it works. The porgs work.
Exactly. It's really good because the tone is not off. It's okay to go from something really heavy to something lighthearted like this. They pulled it off. Next we have, I actually hated this. I'm sorry. I think I'm probably the only person in the entire galaxy who has a problem with this scene. I don't want to talk smack about Poe, but I just hated his speech. You lost me. Okay, we're the spark that lights the fire that will then ignite and will then explode and combust and then burn the First Order, and then they will be destroyed. What? It's like too long. I don't like speech like that. I don't like that line of dialogue.
Oh, I loved it. I liked it. I thought it was so. First of all, he looks amazing.
He looks amazing. So yes, I can agree with you on that.
He's like that traditional hero, which it is. It's not super interesting, He's not gonna have an arc, but to be there cheering people on. I liked it.
I don't know. I have ADHD. I can't hang on to you that long. You gotta get to the point, buddy. But look, I want Kylo Ren to have a monologue. I want him to have an epic monologue. I don't want an epic monologue from Poe. That's just me. I gotta be honest. I know Rhea, who is in Star Wars Connection, she adores Poe, and I think she will not be happy if I talk crap about him. But Poe doesn't do it for me. I think he's gorgeous, though. Yes.
I actually think he's the best looking male right now. I do like Kylo because of the romance, but so that's why I can watch him all day, no problem.
I can watch him, just don't talk. But no, I'm kidding. He can talk. He can say whatever he wants. It's just that, honestly, for me, that kind of dialogue, I find it really hard to take seriously. It just reminds me of Mojo Jojo from the Powerpuff Girls. It was like always so convoluted and grandiose. It's like that does not do it for me. But I don't begrudge Poe or the actor. I think Oscar Isaac is fantastic. I think that's more of a failure on the part of the screenplay writer who wrote that terrible dialogue. Rian Johnson, nobody's perfect. I still love you. Moving on. I like that Poe is obviously a leader in the Resistance, and that brings me to my next point. Finn. Oh my God. Finn looks amazing. One thing that I was wanting from Finn in The Force Awakens was that intensity, that fierceness, and I thought that they played him too funny and cutesy. Yeah. In this movie, he looks powerful, he looks determined, and I just loved every second that he was on that trailer. I can't wait to see him.
I know he wasn't in the trailer much. I hope people don't complain, but I think they were focusing on the Force plot. But I agree with you. He looked really good.
Well, it's the Kylo trailer, right? But the thing is that he wasn't there for long. But the time that he was there, he made such an impression because his scenes were just so powerful. Of course, we got the promised showdown with Phasma, and her armor looks fantastic. I love that shot of Finn reflected on her helmet.
Beautiful.
That's the kind of visual.
Shot.
Yeah.
And also, it was almost every fan's desire, because in The Force Awakens, everyone was like, it should have been Phasma. Why this random stormtrooper. It should have been faster. And it's almost like he's giving us back what we like. It's like, I know, it's almost like he's one of us, you know, Rian Johnson. I know it should have been fast, but here we have it in the trailer. And, you know, as far as I know, everybody loved it.
Yes. You know, guys, everybody who's talking about Jedi Finn still, I think you guys have to give up. I really don't think that he's going to end up being the Jedi of this trilogy. I don't think he's the last Jedi, so it's time to move on from that. He can be really important, and it looks like he will be, but I'm now a little bit confused about, I think he and Poe are going to almost split a role. Like they're equally important. They're not playing up Finn like the co-lead that he was in The Force Awakens along with Rey. Do you know what?
That's what I thought too, based on the trailer and for how long Poe was in the trailer. And also we're going to talk later, but also on the poster because his head is the same size and is, you know, symmetrical to, or maybe we're going to have Storm Pilot. Triangle. No,
That's another thing that I wanted to say. I was kind of disappointed that they didn't include Rose in the trailer.
They didn't include Holdo, they didn't include DJ, you know. The Resistance plot was not there, so that's why these people were not there.
That was disappointing. But moving on, that shot of Luke, actually you mentioned that already, like his hand coming out of the rubble. There's something else I wanted to say about that. Kylo destroyed it all. Kylo killed everybody, whatever. We don't know if he did. Maybe when Luke is talking about that raw power that's dangerous, and if he's talking about Kylo after all, maybe, can you imagine that maybe Kylo didn't deliberately do anything bad? Maybe he just didn't know how to control the power. Maybe it was just unleashed and in a moment of anger, but not like he planned it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's what I think
possible?
Too. That's what I think it's hinting at. And, you know, this time we're going to have an explanation, because if we are to sympathize with Kylo, you know, we need to understand him. And that's what I'm thinking as well. If we go back to that shot of the hand, we don't know if it's a flashback or if maybe it's something that happens in that too as well.
Yeah, I think it's a flashback because it aligns with the shot of him in R2-D2 from before, you know, like from Rey's Force vision. But the thing is, the thing that really made me think that maybe it was accidental on Kylo's part. When I say accidental, I mean that, yeah, maybe he was so angry that he just wrecked everything, but it's not like he planned it and he betrayed, let me let in the First Order to destroy everything, but rather that his own raw power that he could not control on learning something and being angry just made it all crumble, because Luke actually has to dig himself out from under this pile of rubble. So how did that fall? That's what made me think that maybe Kylo didn't do it intentionally. And for sure, you know, if we're looking at Kylo as a character who's going to end up being redeemed, which he most likely will be, they have to make him sympathetic more so. And I think that's one way they can do it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, from the hand, from the rubble, there's that spoiler about the exploding hat. And maybe it's that as well. Maybe. But it makes more sense that it should be maybe from the flashback and the hand emerging. It is a horror movie thing, you know. Rian Johnson knows that. And you know how that maybe transforms.
It really connects to the idea when Rian talks about how Kylo is almost like a metaphor for adolescence and how difficult it is to be a teenager and how you want to fight against yourself and you've got all this angst and anger. Teenagers blow up sometimes, and I think that we can totally see Kylo as a teenager, a young Padawan with his braid and everything, which there are hints that maybe we'll see that, according to some tweets by Pablo Hidalgo recently. So maybe we'll see that moment when he just explodes, and that's something that I think a lot of us can recognize and kind of remember, like, oh yeah, I remember what it was like being like 14 and kind of blowing up.
But at the same time, we need to also sympathize with Luke, and it can't be something silly, you know? So maybe some sort of misunderstanding, because I don't want to think, you know, Luke is a, you know, bad uncle who doesn't understand his nephew.
I think Luke is going to be a bad uncle who doesn't understand his nephew. I think that we're not going to see the Luke that we want to see necessarily. We're going to see a Luke that his portrayal concerned Mark Hamill enough for him to march into Rian Johnson's office and be like, dude, what the fuck, you know? There's something there about Luke mishandling Kylo, or people even saying maybe he tried to use Kylo in some way. Maybe the Knights of Ren were Padawans and they tried to protect Kylo from him. Something like that, you know? Like, that's still a possibility I haven't ruled out. I don't think Luke is going to be fully evil, but I think that he's going to be one of those heroes that's not quite heroic once you get to know him. Kind of like Yoda was in the PT. But
maybe a little worse, because Yoda never had the biggest head in the poster.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. So the other thing that we were talking a little bit about is Snoke. looking really creepy and gross. He just looks really scary, actually. When I saw him as a hologram, I was not impressed, but with this shot of him, there's something really creepy about him. He reminds me a little bit of Melisandre, the Red Witch from Game of Thrones. Remember when she took off her young woman magic makeup and it was like just really creepy, ancient, evil, kind of Portrait of Dorian Gray situation, that it was really unsettling, and just like the idea that he's around Kylo is so creepy to me.
Oh.
And then you can see in the next shot of Rey, where she's being force tortured, you can see Snoke's golden robe in the background. So he's obviously doing this to her. And
I like it because it's, it's in the red throne room.
It is in the red throne, and you can even see one of the Praetorian guards in the corner of the shot.
And also, guys, you want to know what it's like to see Rey tortured? That's Rey tortured, okay?
Yes.
If you're not sure what torture looks like, there it is.
Compare this to You're My Guest. Thank you. There's a couple of things about this scene that are really intriguing to me. First of all, she's got her Final Evolution costume where she's got her Jedi robes, and it's in Snoke's room, obviously, with the guard. It's not a good thing that's happening. Can you imagine Kylo Ren witnessing that and being okay with it? Because I can't. Not after that shot of him extending his hand to her. And there's something very reminiscent here of that scene in The Return of the Jedi where Darth Vader is observing as the Emperor force fries Luke, and he just can't take it. He just can't handle it, and he turns on his master. Is this a callback to that scene?
Maybe.
Maybe.
But it would be a cool callback. Maybe, this is, the teasers to the trailer, and there's that shot with Kylo, with his igniting his lightsaber. He looks, it seems he's furious because he's shaking, and maybe these shots, they're related. Teaser to the trailer now.
Oh, yeah, I agree with you. That could, it's the Arthur hand,
Yeah,
it's like he's shaking in fury. Maybe that's oh my goodness. And maybe that's when they all fight the guards.
Yeah, I want to see that fight.
Okay, we're totally like getting hyped for this and we're just imagining it. I hope we're right. Okay, now we're going to talk about the moment when things start to really get interesting in this trailer. We find Rey and she's not wearing her Final Evolution outfit. She's wearing her training outfit in Octo. And then she's talking about how she's looking for someone to show her. It reminds me of the Beatles song, Help, I Need Somebody. Not just anybody. I need Kylo Ren. So I need someone to teach me and show me the ways of the Force.
I think it's awesome because it's somebody to help her understand herself, It's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a money shot.
It's a
Everybody was like, woohoo.
Callback to the, you need a teacher, I can show you the ways of the Force. Kylo Ren understood that. She wasn't ready to accept it because she just watched him do something horrible and he was a monster. So she wanted nothing to do with him, but it wasn't any less true that she did need a teacher. Honestly, this is the big controversy. Yes, it's misdirection because I don't think she's talking to Kylo Ren in that moment, but she's talking about him. It's one of those scenes again where it doesn't matter who it's being said to. It's still meant to make you believe that it's about Kylo Ren. And we know that because the next connecting shot is of Kylo Ren just looking at her with, this vulnerability and openness and just reaching out his hand to her. Like, like we're about to get married or something, or like let's dance, oh my god, it's just amazing. People are making fun of the Elvis song Take My Hand, Take My Whole Life Too. I'm more of a Bon Jovi person. That shot reminds me of Take My Hand, We'll Make It, I Swear, we're living on a prayer. It's like we're gonna team up and we're gonna make it through.
I got it like that, as a team up, as friendship, as connection, as that's something that I want to see. But I'm going to say something against the grain here. I know everybody's saying that it's not the same scene. Maybe it's not the same scene, but just notice how both shots, first it's the same light. The light comes from the same side. The camera angle is in the exact same angle. She's looking up exactly on the angle he is. He's looking down exactly on the angle she is. So it matches perfectly. So it could be in the same sequence. I know everybody's saying it isn't, but I'm saying maybe it is. If it's not in the same sequence, it's two different sequences that are in dialogue and connect to each other. Like maybe it's in the beginning, she's talking maybe to Luke, and this is question posed. And then when you have this similar scene again, it's like question answered. I'm saying this because it's a very unique looking movie with different shots. Random here. I watched Game of Thrones this season, and every single scene was teal and orange, teal and orange, teal. But that's not the case here. It's very rich visually. So for you to have two similar scenes with the exact same angle, exact same color, exact same light, either it's the same scene or there's a meaning and a connection between them. So, in terms of meaning, it doesn't matter if it's the same scene or if it's not. That's what I think.
I absolutely agree with you. It really doesn't matter if it's in the same continuity, if it's the same conversation. The trailer clearly wants you to make the connection that the person that fulfills what she's talking about is Kylo Ren. I don't know if it's the same scene. I don't think it's the same scene because of Rey's outfit and Kylo's healing scar. They're at two different stages in the movie. Rey's outfit is what she wears when she first arrives to Ahch-To, and after that she's going to change into her Jedi outfit. Whereas Kylo, at the beginning of the movie, he has his little goth band-aid, and we see him here in this scene, the scar is already healed. I don't think that it lines up that that's what she looks like in the scene where he extends his hand out to her. Since the trailer came out, Anthony Breznican, who I'm not his biggest fan because he doesn't really care for Kylo all that much, apparently, going by the way he writes about him, but he certainly is very well connected within Lucasfilm, and he apparently stated that he saw it and he can confirm that Kylo Ren does extend his hand to Rey. But whether or not it's in the same continuity as what we saw in the trailer, I personally don't think it's the case. But I think that you're right that there's a deliberateness to the way that it was shot that we're expected to believe that it could have happened at the same time. So your mind is supposed to go there. So people who are saying, oh, this is just misdirection, it doesn't mean anything. No, it means everything. That this is the scene that follows Rey's declaration that she's lost and she needs somebody to help her. And then enter Kylo Ren extending his hand. It can't be clearer than that. There's very clear visual language in a man extending his hand out like that to a woman. Anybody who's saying that, oh, these are siblings and cousins and this is meaningless, no. This is a very important message we're getting in the trailer.
Yeah, I think the problem with the people that are saying that it's sibling is that it means that they haven't been keeping up with the news and the commentary. Basic Google on that, like when Rian Johnson says, oh no, her parentage is important just for her. So, it has been debunked. Yes, it could have been cool, cousins. I'm gonna say, I would have liked it. The siblings could have been super cool, but it's not the case. So, it's not the case. It's not the case.
Yeah. Well, Denise, what do you think is the big takeaway from this trailer? What is the thing that you think is the message they're trying to get across?
I think the trailer shows the premise. It doesn't show the twist. Rey and Kylo teaming up is not the twist. It's the premise that they're similar and they're two halves of the protagonist, that they're going to have something together. That's it. And the twist or, the further developments are going to be something different, maybe related to her powers or something like this. But what I find is that it is a plot about these two young people trying to find themselves and trying to control their raw power, which, is super symbolic, and maybe finding each other to find the answer. The trailer is about the theme and the tone of the movie, there is never misdirection on that, even in The Force Awakens. So, it is what it is about. What do you think?
You said it perfectly. One thing I would add, now that we're on the topic of The Force Awakens, the Force Awakens trailer did not misdirect as to what was going on overall in terms of themes and messages. It was misdirection as far as individual character arcs. And I think we see a little bit of that. There's no way to know for sure until we see the movie, but I think there's a little bit of that in this The Last Jedi trailer. For people who are going to believe that Kylo is evil and beyond redemption, they're going to say, yeah, he's going to kill his mom. And they're going to say, oh my God, his extending hand to Rey means that she's going to fall to the dark side, at least temporarily. That's all they see. They can't see beyond that. That's misdirection. And that's what a good trailer does. It doesn't spell it out for you so that it's obvious what's going on. It leaves a little bit of ambiguity so that you can get hints and then make up your mind about what you want to see. And I think this was just masterfully done in that way. I really like how Kylo Ren and Rey were positioned. I think that there's a really smart consistency in the marketing of The Last Jedi in that regard, because that comes across in product placement, like with the his and hers, Kylo outfit, Rey outfit, half and half, like on the ground. We'll talk more about that. But that placement of the duality, Rian Johnson's statements about them being two halves of one thing, two halves of our protagonist, two halves of light and dark, and then the way they're positioned in this trailer, you see them coming from completely different directions, and then you see them talking about each other or people talking about them, and it could be either one of them, and they're both in conflict with themselves and with their mentor figures. They're more similar than either of them realizes, and at the end, they come together. I think that's the message that we're supposed to take away. And I think it was just conveyed beautifully.
Yeah, The Force Awakens, you had this awakening that you could interpret sexual awakening, and when you have this with these two people that have this thing that's dangerous in them, and they have to kind of find each other to sort it out, it has a little bit of that meaning as well, I think, which relates to being a teenager and finding yourself. I don't want to go too much into that because but I think it has a little bit of that as well.
I think that's a very profound commentary, and I think you're absolutely spot on. I don't know how deliberate that was, but I think Rian Johnson's obviously somebody who's interested in psychology. Just the fact that, look at his reading list, and the movies that he watches. Anybody who is a writer, in order to understand your characters, you have to have an interest in understanding people, how they tick, what makes them want things, what causes conflict, and how difficult it is to resolve it. And that struggle is what creates drama. I think that the themes that you've talked about, that of discovery of self as a sexual being, that happens during adolescence. And Ryan approaches Kylo from that perspective of a person who's not fully formed yet. That conflict, that ambiguity, that exploration of our inner darkness and the forbidden parts of yourself. There's an undercurrent of sexuality fraught with danger and taboo and a sense of it being something forbidden. So I think all of that intertwines. It's going to feel real and relatable because that's something we've all been through. Anybody who's lived through puberty can understand those topics. And it's one of those things that when you're older, you get to appreciate how profoundly layered that is. But when you're a kid, all you see is lightsabers and porgs, So it's something that the whole family can enjoy. The teenagers are going to see themselves reflected in a lot of that. And then the older people are going to remember and think, yeah, I know what that's like. So I think I'm so excited for this. I can't tell you. I think this is probably going to be the best Star Wars movie ever. I'm anticipating that just from everything we've pieced together. But anyway, I think we should probably talk a little bit more about the teasers.
Yeah. Remember when you said on the masculinity, I want to see more of Kylo Ren's lightsaber. And so we got that second shot, which is very interesting because you see his anger and everything. But, look at the position of the camera and everything, I mean, it is in a way symbolic,
That grip, His grip is there's something very erotic about it, It was
position, and the camera angle, because Rey's not holding it near her, and his whatever.
It's at the level of his lower body, and there's an intensity, and it's like red, and there's a visual language there. When we were watching that teaser online as a group of friends, we were just talking about it. Everybody kept saying that, oh my God, I'm fanning myself, I'm sweating. Wow, my reaction to this. Yeah, there's something very masculine. I think visually it's very well done.
Yeah, this power of masculinity and super masculine because it's symbolic. Yeah. It's there. It's awesome.
What about the other teasers?
Oh, the one of Rey, I thought it was okay because we had seen her training. It's similar to what we got. That moment when he picks up his lightsaber, that's an important moment as well.
And one thing that we didn't mention before that actually was pointed out by Willow, one of our Star Wars Connection members. The moment when Snoke is talking about raw power, something truly special. And then we see Rey, that moment when she ignites the lightsaber, and this amazing screaming noise comes out that's just primal and epic. It's powerful. It was so well conveyed. The fantasy element of it, and like I said, it's reminiscent of Lord of the Rings. And then Bae pointed out, another one of our podcasters, you might recall her from the Adam and Eve podcast.
What she said was that his force sound is the purring, which is primal animal. Hers is a beating heart, and that, that this idea of raw power was likely set up from the start. It's not something that just came
out of nowhere, yeah. So now let's talk a little bit about the reaction to the trailer, both in the media and in the fandom. I think in general, it was very well received. Most people seem to really love it. That being said, there's like a huge amount of denial, I think. You guys may know denial is actually a pretty powerful defense mechanism. It's just basically shutting down your perception of reality so that you're protected from a reality that's threatening or that's scary or overwhelming. So it's like, oh, it doesn't exist. I just don't even have to worry about it. And you don't even realize that you're doing it. It's really funny because I think that's actually what's going on with some of the reactions that we've seen. Like, it's gotten to the point where people are saying that it's not Kylo Ren who's extending his hand to Rey. It's Luke. Luke. Or that, Kylo Ren's actually going to die early on in the movie and there's somebody else wearing his outfit. I heard somebody say that it was like Leia who actually turned to the dark side to avenge her son, and then she just decided to always wear his mask. Because that way they can keep introducing Leia in future films without having to reveal that it's not, the same actress. Stuff like that is just kind of like cuckoo. People would rather believe something like that than to accept the fact that Kylo Ren is an important character. And honestly, it's just kind of mind-boggling to me that people are still talking about Rey Solo, Rey Skywalker in the media, that people are like writing articles about it still. And I know you in particular were kind of upset by it.
I thought it was hilarious. I was laughing so much. I was crying. I'm a very bad person. I'm evil.
I know that. What was it about it?
What I noticed is that, and it was all like the last one is a misdirection, or so we hope. And the lack of neutrality and the lack of, I think it's okay, but later I thought, what? Even though they're journalists, they're fans, and they have their own bias, and they're in the stage of denial, let them be. I'm no longer upset, but I just thought it was funny that they're like, oh, these girls with their fan fiction, yeah, but it's okay. I just said, I forgive them. Well, I don't forgive them for how mean they are.
Journalists on Twitter going like, oh my god, the Reylos are going to be unbearable now because of what happened in the trailer. We're not unbearable. We're just over your denial, basically, at this point, whatever.
Yeah, and also I was watching some reaction videos, and some of them, lots of them, people were like, woohoo, when they saw Kylo. But some of them, when they saw it, their faces went blank, like they had no expression anymore. It was almost as if they weren't seeing. And that's when I stopped thinking it was hilarious and funny, and kind of felt bad for them. They are really in shock because we were surprised. Imagine, if you're sure, if you're certain that these Reylo women, they're crazy, you're certain that Rey's the Skywalker, and you go and you watch that, and it's just they can't process it, and that's why they're writing crazy stuff that it's completely misdirection, and but I don't know. I think it's gonna pass or not. I don't care. It's kind of funny.
Dude, everything that's come out is supporting the narrative that Rey and Kylo are going to have a very meaningful relationship upon which the whole dang movie is going to rest. So anybody who's denying that because they don't believe Kylo is an important character needs to look at what's been put out there. And I've heard people saying, well, if Kylo and Rey get together or if Kylo Ren gets redeemed, well, I'm done with Star Wars. Okay, goodbye. Star Wars is not about what you want. It's about what it is. And it is about redemption. It is about all these themes about forgiveness and struggling to find your identity, I'm just very satisfied that we get some validation, but I think it's going to take a little bit longer for people who are still really attached to the idea about Rey Walker.
Yeah.
If they didn't see that they were mistaken up until now, I think it's really going to take the movie showing them the DNA test. That, Luke, you are not the father.
Say it's false. They're going to say, the Last Jedi is misdirection. And then Rian Johnson said, Rey's parentage is important only for her. I mean, can you get any more clear than that? You can't. So at this point, it's going to insane land. And it's
insane in the membrane, yeah.
But one thing that I wanted to say is that I used not to believe that they would have a kiss in this one. And now because of the marketing, I actually think they are gonna kiss. Frankly, I'm gonna say, for me, it doesn't really make a difference. I actually find the whole connecting with each other and understanding each other, it's so much more interesting than, kissing, necessarily kissing.
Oh, no, I love kissing, and I want as much kissing as possible between them.
I think you can be later, I wouldn't mind if it was on the third. Because what I like if I see a couple is to feel the emotional connection with them, and it's this emotional trajectory that I'm more invested in. But I think there will be a kiss. Yeah. And we're all gonna scream in the theater, and it's gonna be so much fun.
I know. I have been a strong supporter of the kiss from day one. I mean, seriously, guys, come on. If, twins can make out in Star Wars, do you really believe that Kylo Ren and Rey can't? I have been in utter denial that there's not going to be a kiss when it seemed like it was impossible that they would ever make it to that point. But let me put it to you guys this way. Those of you who are rolling your eyes at the idea of, oh my God, they're never going to be able to kiss. It's too soon. Well, think about it this way. If Rey and Kylo Ren are going to get to the point in The Last Jedi where Kylo Ren gives her that gaze, looks at her with googly eyes, and he actually extends his hand to her, do you realize what needs to happen between them to get them from point A, you're a monster, monster and I cut your face, to point D or F of take my hand and come with me, and for her to actually consider it. We don't know if she's going to put her hand on his, but maybe she will, and then what? What can happen after that? I don't know, maybe... it's like it's the natural progression of them coming so close to each other emotionally and physically. I absolutely have not ruled out a kiss. I would be surprised if we don't get it. One of my favorite things about this trailer is that I feel like it really set the record straight. And I don't know if it was by design, but I think so. Because if you think about it, the direction that they're heading in is obviously a Reylo direction. I mean, everything's coming up Reylo. And if they want people to be more or less prepared to the possibility that this could happen, because there are people out there who totally refuse to acknowledge the possibility that Kylo Ren and Rey could ever come to any sort of understanding, period, let alone any kind of romance. So to help clarify things, the trailer is basically refuting all of those arguments that people like to arm themselves with when they're trying to knock down Reylo. First of all, that Kylo Ren tortured Rey. The trailer's answer to that is, actually, no, this is what it looks like when Rey is tortured, as you said, Denise, earlier. And then the other argument that they use is, well, Kylo Ren is a monster. He can't feel anything but hate. He hates Rey and he wants to kill her and destroy her because she emasculated him, which is pretty ridiculous, to be honest. But the trailer's answer to that is, here you have this beautiful shot of him extending his hand out to her in a wordless gesture that is universally understood to be, take my hand, take me, accept me, I accept you. I mean, it's beautiful. It's just beautiful. And there's no arguing with that. It's in the trailer. And I think that on some level, people who have been in denial this whole time are starting to realize it. And it's like they're super triggered by this trailer. I've heard people threatening to throw up at the theater. Like, they're like, I'm just going to throw up everywhere if Kylo and Rey make out. I've seen people say they'd rather see some kind of a romantic development between Luke and Rey if it means that Rey's not going to end up with Kylo. What? For us who have been talking about this connection between these two characters for months, for years now, going on 2 years, and have been told that we're crazy, we're insane, we're amoral, or reading too much into it because we're projecting dark fantasies onto these fictional characters. The trailer is in your face. Please look at it and realize that there's plenty of room on this ship. We are a pretty cool, laid-back community for the most part. There's unfortunately a little bit of gatekeeping in the Reylo ranks. We're all human, right? I actually think it's wonderful. The more people who join, the better. The more voices that get added on, the better. So welcome to the ship. If you're one of those people who saw the trailer and suddenly a little light bulb went off and you went, oh.
What I felt after the trailer was like, oh no, why is it JJ on the 9th? It's horrible.
I'm hoping that JJ will be like the Walker. I think he's going to evolve because it's just not going to fly to pull that same crap from The Force Awakens. Like everything's a copy. No, that's not going to work, especially after we see something so interesting like with Ryan. So I think he's going to have to up his game big time. And I think he knows that. I don't think he would have accepted this if he didn't feel like he could do it, because he's going to be hated anyway, because anybody who touches Star Wars, even its creator, ends up being hated. But I think that he knows that he can deliver a good product. I have faith in JJ. Certainly more than Colin.
Oh, God, no.
Please.
I hope JJ doesn't do the misleading marketing. And one thing also with the people talking about misdirection, I think they are confusing. This is not JJ anymore. This is Rian Johnson. Just what I remember from the marketing for The Force Awakens was that, it really did set up the tone. Nostalgia, nostalgia, nostalgia. questions. And that's exactly what we got. There's always something that you have to hide in the trailer, hopefully, because some trailers give away the whole movie, and that's not a good idea. But you get the idea of the tone and the themes. And we got that in The Force Awakens as well, even though maybe, you could jump to some conclusions, but if you look back, it wasn't that weird or off.
I agree. Anything else, Denise?
She knows how to swim. No,
I'm not happy with that. But maybe Kylo taught her after they went skinny dipping. Maybe that's how she learned. All right, guys. Well, we would love to hear your thoughts about the trailer and the future directions and all of our ramblings. So you can email us at starwarsconnection09@gmail.com. You can also message us on Twitter and Tumblr. The links are in our description. You can also leave us a comment on YouTube. Connect with us. We love to hear from you, and may the Force be with you.